goes after it. He'll put it out in front. It rolls free. Kochetkov, net. What a save. Florida still. And it goes after it. He'll put it out in front. It rolls free. Kochetkov, net. What a save. Florida still putting pressure on. Bennett with a chance. That doesn't get through. Second chance comes free, and Carolina can skate this one to save. Carolina trying to work some magic through the middle of the ice. Good play by Ekblad. He gets it up for Boquist. Boquist around Orlov, and he scores. Oh, beautiful highlight reel goal. Jesper Boquist to the backhand, and it's 2-1 Florida. 18:31 left here in the third.
What would a Canes Corner be without some sort of technical malfunction? Hi, everyone. This is the Canes Corner podcast. I am Adam Gold. Appreciate your time. If you check this out in podcast form, you'll see all the highlights that are ready to be played that for some reason don't want to play. Maybe out of nowhere, one will play. Let's see.
Bennett goes after it. He'll put it out.
Nope. Didn't. All right. Here's what you were going to hear. You were going to hear a whole bunch of Pyotr Kochetkov saves from the first period. Then you were going to hear the Logan Stankoven power play goal that tied it 1-1. Then, sadly, you were going to hear the Taylor Hall turnover that led to the Jesper Boquist goal early in the third period that made it 2-1. And then later on in the podcast, I was going to play the Eric Robinson off the crossbar into the Nico Mikkola 3-1 goal that really buried Carolina. That's what we're going to hear. But until the podcast drops in podcast form, you won't. But you watched them. You saw all of it. And frankly, I'm not sure any of us really need to relive it. It's the Canes Corner podcast brought to you by the Aluminum Company of North Carolina. If it is for the exterior of your home, you can find it at the Aluminum Company of North Carolina on Hamlin Road in Durham. No place like it. Sammy Hannon and his crew do a great job. I just saw a couple of the guys the other day. They're amazing people. And I'm told they have, well, I can't even say it because I don't know that I'm allowed. But they have great financing deals. You should check them out. All right. I don't know where to start. Usually I do. Usually I say, we got to start here. This is the most important thing. But I'm not sure that the most important thing isn't something I heard after the game. What I heard after the game was disappointment. Now, I wrote down before the end of the game, I wrote down in the middle of the third period, I wrote this. Been a long time since I have been this disappointed in the Hurricanes. But after the game, I was justified in thinking that because the head coach said it out loud. He didn't say, I'm disappointed, but you could tell in his voice in that he really did not protect his players. Those, if you were not mentioned by Rod Brindamore tonight, then you probably played a crappy game. In a game like this, knowing, and you're right there in the third period. In a game like this, your best players got to be good. And what we saw tonight was, for the most part, one line. I don't even know if we had one full defensive pair. But for the most part, Slavin, I thought Burns had some struggled at times, but I was, for the most part, good, but he wasn't great. He did contribute a big contribution on the first goal. I guess the first goal, because Carolina got a second one. But boy, it was a rough go. When we came down to having to pick 3 stars and a player of the game, it was easy. Because Carolina had one really good line. And for 40 minutes, the goalie was really good. So those were the 4 players to highlight. Now, there were some other good things, decent things, but nothing great. at all. Nothing great. So, yeah, and yet, for 40 minutes, it was 1-1. After 40 minutes, it was 1-1. We can't lose sight of that. But I was disappointed by... It's the first time I have ever seen the Hurricanes really cave in like that. The 3-1 goal ended it, and then it was a parade. Carolina stopped skating, they stopped playing, they stopped competing. And we're going to be soured by and I think the head coach will probably say the same thing. I can almost predict what he will tell me on Monday. Man, I went back and watched it for 40 minutes. We were right there. And then the turnover by Taylor Hall. Dmitry Orlov's turned around in knots. Kochetkov, poke check attempt, no good. And Jesper Boqvist, who's only playing because Sam Reinhart isn't, slides it between the pads, and it's 2-1. And the worst part is Carolina had just killed off a power play. Think about this. Because in some ways, talking about the third period and how it all fell apart is maybe how we should talk about the disappointment that we all feel about how this ended tonight. Rod Brindamore starts Pyotr Kochetkov. Ballsy move. Yeah, maybe mood too. Ballsy move. And maybe the reason, and he didn't know this because I brought it up to him. Sometimes there's anecdotal evidence in your brain that says, hey, I kind of think he's been really good against Russian goalies, the elite Russian goalies. So I went back and looked at it over these last 2 years. He's been spectacular against Shesterkin, Sorokin, Vasilevsky, Bobrovsky. 2-0 in his career in the regular season against Bob. He didn't play great in the playoff game last year against the Rangers, but he only allowed 3 goals, and the game went to overtime. And his career, he has been excellent against the Fantastic Four Russian keepers. I mean, the record speaks for itself, but the save percentage that's, one of the top ways we rate goalies. Save percentage of .935 in his career. And it's not a small, not his career, but in the last 2 years. And it ain't a small sample size. It's 12 games against those players, opposite those goalies. And with all due respect to the Islanders, who are not great, other than this year, they've been a perennial playoff team, not to mention Florida and Tampa. So he's been great. So a little bit of a ballsy idea to give Kochetkov the start. And we mentioned it last time. I do think, I think Rod's going to go back to Anderson for game 4, but I wouldn't. I'd continue to ride with Kochetkov. I absolutely would. What Kochetkov did in the first 2 periods, man, give me more of that. Give me more of that. He gave Carolina a chance in the first 2 periods. It was excellent. Was he great in the third period? No, of course not. But he gave Carolina the opportunity to even have a third period with some hope. So you make that move. Chatfield's not playing. Then Sean Walker takes the warm-up. He was supposed to play. And then all of a sudden, the lineups come out and Alexander Nikishin's in. And all of a sudden, Carolina's got 2 rookies on the blue line against the Florida Panthers. You've got Kochetkov in net making his second start of the playoffs. And you have to win a game on Florida's ice. I mean, it was not it was not the perfect recipe for ultimately what Carolina needed out of tonight, which was a win. And it didn't matter how. And for 40 minutes, they hung in. They had a penalty. They had a minute 9 of a Florida power play to kill to start the third. And you just thought, man, if they could just get through that, take that momentum, run with it until, until maybe you can steal a goal and get out of there with a game 3 win, get a little momentum, get to game 4, play your game maybe. Who knows, right? They killed the penalty. In the ensuing rush up the ice, Taylor Hall. Soft backhand drop pass for Sebastian Aho. Aaron Ekblad reads it, just easily steps in front of it. We go the other way. Jesper Boqvist turns Dmitry Orlov around. It was a rough night for Mr. Orlov. And Kochetkov goes for the poke check, which I get it, but just play it straight. There's a time and a place. Maybe one day Pyotr will figure that out, but he didn't tonight. Even though the poke check saved a goal, the Lundell pass to Brad Marchand in the second period should have been a goal. Kochetkov deflected it with a stick. But that was the wrong time to use it. Takes me back to a shootout earlier this year where he poke checks the puck away. I forget who it was against. Poke checks the puck away and then tries to do it again on the second shooter, and the shooter was ready for it. He was waiting for it. Anyway. So 3 mistakes. The turnover, Orlov getting turned the wrong way, and then Kochetkov essentially eliminating the stick from the equation on a breakaway. And Jesper Boqvist makes it 2-1. But that wasn't the dagger. The dagger came after. The dagger came after the Staal Martinook line was on the ice, and they were creating chances. Boom, boom, after another. Puck stays in the zone. Vasilevsky doesn't have a stick. Puck staying in the zone. We get a line change. New guys come on. Puck staying in the zone. Eric Robinson off the crossbar. A couple of more chances. Then Scott Morrow trying to do too much at the left point. Loses control of the puck. It's pushed out of the zone. And the puck didn't go the other way immediately. It was pushed back into the offensive zone. But ultimately, Carolina, that pressure was relieved. Whereas if Morrow just at the blue line, rather than try to fight and keep possession of the puck, just flip it into the corner. Florida's got tired bodies on the ice. Just flip it into the corner. So, and that sequence ends not that long after that. Carter Verhaeghe gets the puck out of the zone. Nico Mikkola eventually finishes. Not a sharp angle shot, but an angled shot from looked like just outside the left face-off dot. And, savable shot for Kochetkov. He was a little bit out of position, and it beats him far side. We complain about goalies giving up the short side like Anderson did on the Verhaeghe goal in game 1 that made it 1-0. And arguably the goal that changed the series right there. To be the first goal could have ultimately changed the series because Carolina was actually very good the first 5.5, 6 minutes until Florida went on the power play in game 1. But regardless, when Mikkola scored, and he's been, arguably the Panthers have had a lot of good players. Nico Mikkola's been arguably the best player in the series for Florida. Not even joking. He's been great, and I didn't think he was that good before the series. I thought Carolina could expose him. They did not. They have not. He has been awesome. Think about believe it. The Rangers had him and just basically let him go. Yeah, Florida's been good for that, right? Maybe that's what Florida's culture does. I don't remember Sam Bennett ever being as good as he is now when Bennett was with Calgary and when Bennett was a good player, but not this player. You imagine that Sam Bennett was at one point buried on Calgary's fourth line and not playing. Anyway, that moment that made it 3-1. And here's where the disappointment comes back. Look, I know it's daunting. You haven't really mustered a whole lot of offense in the series, although you're coming off a period where you had, 3, 4, maybe 5 really good scoring chances, including one where Sebastian Aho refused to shoot. And then you just fell apart. It was just so disappointing the way the rest of the period ended. Because after the Mikkola goal, not that 3-1 is good position for Carolina, but it ain't over. It ain't over with 13 and a half minutes to go. But 29 seconds later, Barkov, all alone, nobody caring anymore. 4-1. We actually had to wait almost a little bit more than 2.5 minutes till the next goal. Again, it was Barkov that was deflected in by Shane Gostisbehere. 2 own goals for Carolina tonight. Nice job. A minute later, Brad Marchand transition. 6-1. I mean, just an utter capitulation. And in some cases, the final score doesn't matter. And the final score mattered tonight. Final score looked like a defeated team. Not just a defeated team in a game, but defeated. And that's unacceptable. And I know the head coach finds it unacceptable. What you can do about it, I really don't know. I know what some of you want to do about it, and that ain't going to happen. We're not bag skating players. We're not benching players. We're not doing that. I get it. And look, I have fans going to fan. But that ain't going to happen here. But it was such a disappointing end to what could have been a really good win. And I know this is not all about a singular play. It's not all about Hall's poor decision, worse execution, and then the mistakes that followed. But that turnover killed Carolina. Again, not out of it, but you handed Florida a chance. Handed it to them. And it's really because Carolina was not playing their game. As a friend of mine tweeted to me tonight, or texted to me tonight, after I put on Twitter the play by Scott Morrow at the blue line, rather than just flip the puck in deep and let your guys go get it, because they would have gotten it. Florida was gassed. My man said, they're a pucks in deep team. Do that. Pucks in deep. It's the biggest cliche in hockey, but it's what Carolina does, and they do well. And they actually were doing it well in the second period. And then in the third, had an opportunity to continue doing it and got too cute. Got cute with Hall at center ice. Got cute with Morrow at the blue line. And you pay the price for not being who you are. The best advice you could ever give a friend, just be yourself. Be yourself. The Hurricanes got away from being who they were in the third period. And for long stretches in this series. That was a long way. We encompassed a lot of different things. But I do want to just briefly touch on the beginning of the third period. Because after you kill that penalty, you should have momentum. The Hall turnover, the goal, then the possession and the chances, and Eric Robinson off the crossbar. Then it's 3-1, then it's 4-1, then it's 5-1, then it's 6-1. The Seth Jarvis goal doesn't count. I mean, it counts, but it's a waste. And the Hurricanes now have to figure out a way to, I don't even know how to say it. I mean, find something. Find some way to play a period, to play 2 periods, to win a hockey game. But I don't think look, I don't know that they could play 60 minutes against the Florida Panthers. I don't. I thought there were symptoms of defeatism throughout the game. Carolina had a 5-minute power play. I do want to talk about that play. Carolina had a 5-minute power play in the middle, at the end of the first period, wrapping over to the start of the second. Go back and watch those 5 minutes and count how many times they possessed the puck. Really possess the puck. Not have the puck, but just having it and trying to move it so somebody might have some time. I'm talking about possessing the puck. Count how many times they possess the puck below the tops of the faceoff circles. I promise you it's not more than twice. And this, to me, is where Carolina's lack of size shows the most, I think. If you think about Carolina's penalty power play, and even though Jackson Blake wasn't on it, Logan Stankoven took over. Stankoven, by the way, plays a lot bigger than his body. He will get inside. Stankoven is a very good player. But you look at Carolina's top power play. You've got Aho, Jarvis, Blake, Svechnikov, and Gostisbehere. Only Svech is bigger than 6 foot, and Svech doesn't really play inside. He plays on the wing, on the half wall, occasionally get to the side of the net, maybe once in a while in front. But Carolina never gets inside, never gets between the dots, ever, on the power play. There's somebody there, but that person is not threatening. Carolina can't get that person the puck. So, to me, this is where their size, their lack of size, in terms of their skill possession players, they're not a small team. Staal, Martinook, Hall, it's not small. Jankowski when he's in, Robinson, Carrier, Kokaniemi. I'm pretty sure he played tonight. I don't want to. We're going to get to the other guys. Don't think I haven't forgotten that. But for the most part, Carolina's big players aren't scorers. You got to have size that can score. And they don't have it. They just don't. It's not a priority for the organization. When it becomes a priority for the organization, I had a very, very smart front office person tell me earlier this year, they don't believe size matters. But it does. And it shows in the playoffs, and it shows on the power play. Because when Carolina gets way perimeter-y and can't get inside, the box just expands, and Carolina gets less room. So to me, that 5-minute power play was soul-sucking. The fact that they overcame it and played such a good second period was encouraging. And then you get to the third, and, I mean, Florida just turned the lights out. All right, let's run. I want to run down some players here if I could. First, let me tell you what Rod Brindamore said. A couple of things he said. The 4 rookies in the lineup can't be some of your better players. Like, that can't happen. So there's a couple of guys in there that I don't think came to play the way they needed to in this type of time of the year. It can't be Jordan Staal and Jordan Martinook being our best players like that. That can't always be that way, and they are every night. And there they are every night. So we needed more out of some guys. And I think we know who he was talking about. He's talking about Andre, who pretty damn invisible tonight. He's talking about Sebastian Aho, who I didn't think was terrible, but if that's the way I'm talking about him, he wasn't good. And again, this is the second time in the series. The first being, was it game 1? No, early in game 2. Early in game 2. Inside of the first 2 minutes in game 2. When you have an opportunity to shoot the puck in transition, in tight, if you don't do it, that is a you problem. And Aho and Martinook and 2 defenders in between them. I, for the life of me, can't figure out why Sebastian tried to pass that puck through 2 sets of legs, 2 sticks, skates. What are we doing? On top of that is that a wise person once told me, sometimes a good pass isn't a good pass based on who is receiving it. So if you're a quarterback and you're throwing a pass to somebody who drops the ball all the time, yeah, maybe it's not such a good idea. Did you have another option? Jordan Martinook can finish. But Sebastian Aho had the best shot because we knew he could get it off. And he tries to make a pass that, I don't know, had maybe a 25% chance of getting through. That might be generous. Such a disappointing moment for arguably Carolina's best offensive player. Very disappointing moment. So it almost doesn't matter if Aho was good the rest of the game. That moment right there basically washes it all away. It's like when a goalie is great, but then lets in 2 bad goals. Sorry. You're only as good as the goals you allow. And passing up a moment where you needed a goal ain't what this is about, Sebastian. You know you can be better than that. But to be honest, I mean, who among Carolina's best players, their best offensive players, was good tonight? It hasn't been a good series for Jarvis. I love the kid. Love him. He's going to be great. But it hadn't been a good series for him. After 2 great series for Andre, this hasn't been a good 3 games at all. He wasn't as much of a mess tonight as he was at home on Thursday. But I actually think that even in the game on Thursday, he had good moments. He had no good moments tonight. None. Carolina can't beat a good team if your best players just aren't good enough. They just weren't good. It's impossible for them to win if you do that. I want to address the Louis Storinen hit on Jackson Blake that led to the 5-minute boarding major and a game misconduct. It's fairly harsh I'm not entirely sure that was the right call. But I think when it comes down to it, I think we're in a different in the same position we were in a few weeks ago when they called the double minor on Timo Meyer, right, for hitting Freddie Anderson in the Devil series. And that didn't warrant it warranted a 2-minute minor. But I believe the rule is that it's either the 5-minute major and the game misconduct, or it's nothing. And here's the thing about what Luostarinen did. Because on Thursday, he deliberately went after Jackson Blake and hit him up high. Got away with it. Did he get away with it? No, he went to the box. He went to the box. It was called 2-minute roughing penalty or something like that. But that was deliberate. I watched it. Saw it happen right in front of me. So I don't know if Luostarinen is going after Jackson Blake in this situation. But in this one, it's a hockey play. And I do think, and I caught a little bit of what Paul Bissonnette was saying on TV in the intermission, that it does look like he was trying to get to the side of him and avoid it being as bad as it looked. But he didn't pull up. And there was a penalty before he essentially launched Blake into the boards. I don't think that was in any way intentional by Luostarinen. I think, was it a little reckless? Yeah. But it looked to me like he was trying to avoid the worst of it. But there was no pull-up in it. And that's why they justifiably left the 5 minutes on the board. But I think it's a questionable call as a 5-minute major because, again, he didn't really finish Blake. That's not the way it looked to me. Anyway, I'm not apologizing for it. And maybe they did punish the result because it did look like Blake was hurt. He ended up coming back to play. But that was a tough looking play. And given the way that it was called, I think they did the closest thing to correct was what they did. Like if there was a spectrum on it, it would be close to, yep, that's 5 minutes plus a game misconduct. I don't think it got all the way there, but it was close enough where you couldn't say nothing. You couldn't say, oh, no, that's fine. So they did the right thing. But Carolina didn't score on that power play. There you go. We had some shenanigans with Tkachuk and Aho, Bennett and Svechnikov. Expect more of that on Monday for the fourth and more than likely final game. It gets back to Aho's hit on Sam Reinhart. It was a hip check, which I don't know if Reinhart is dealing with a hip injury or is it potentially a knee injury. I think it's probably hip. I don't know. Based on the way he skated off, it looked to me like it was probably more hip flexor, maybe even quad than anything else. I didn't love the Aho hit, but it wasn't the most egregious thing I've ever seen. I think more than anything, it was late, but I don't think it was dirty. I think if anything, it was late. But you knew Florida, once the game was in hand, you knew they were going after him. And I did appreciate the Evan Rodriguez, not at all subtle elbow to the side of the head of Aho when they were skating back up ice out of the Carolina zone. The thing about it is that Rodriguez was just saying, I can do this whenever I want because there wasn't really much force behind it at all. And the referees didn't call it. But I have a sneaky suspicion that we are going to see, once Florida has a couple of goals on the board, a whole bunch of nastiness on Monday. That's what I think we're going to see. And again, I think if anything, Ahu's hit on Reinhart was just late. Not a lot, not by a lot, but just a little bit late. Well, we did get a chance to see the two rookie defensemen play, not together. That's fine. That would be a disaster. Two things. I talked a little bit about Morrow already. I thought he had some decent moments. I thought he had some bad moments. Bad moments with the puck. Bad moments not being able to play pucks out of the zone. But he wasn't the only one. Apparently, Dmitry Orlov took a class on it today. Alexander Nikishin had some good moments again. But he's not ready. Not for this, but I mean, this is basically asking a fifth grader to do calculus. Panthers are the wrong team to get your feet wet against. The absolute wrong team to get your feet wet against. So if it sounds defeatist, well, kind of is. "15 games in a row in the conference final level." That's what they just told me. The number, the effective number, the number that matters is 7 in a row. And let me tell you something about that. That matters. That matters. To be essentially embarrassed on national television for the third straight time, coming out of a 4-game sweep 2 years ago at the hands of the same team, when your head coach, I think rightfully so, defiantly decrees it not a sweep because they could have won each of the 4 games. He wasn't wrong. The only thing missing from what Rod said then was the fact that there was a reason that they didn't win any of those 4 games, that the Panthers were simply better at doing what Carolina does, and they were bigger at doing what Carolina does. And Florida now is better than they were then and bigger than they were then. But these 3 games, based on the final score, and the way Carolina went away tonight, that's embarrassing. Embarrassing. And the fact that Rod essentially called out his best players, because that's what he did, without mentioning them by name. He answered a direct question about Dmitry Orlov. He was bad tonight. Just like he answered a direct question about Andrei Svechnikov in game 2, because he was bad that night. I'll bet you Rod is more upset about tonight than he was game 2. Got to have more from your best players. I'm not sure there's anything else left to say. So we'll just do this. I thought Kochetkov was good. I'd play him again. We're not going to see Chatfield on Monday. That's okay. Let Nikishin play with Orlov. Law of averages tells me Dmitry is not going to be as bad Monday as he was tonight. He was kind of banged up early. I wonder if that had anything to do with it. Not giving him an excuse, but I don't know if how many people saw it, but it did look, like he took a hit and didn't really come out of it very well. And by the way, I get some of you have hated Orlov all year, and he went through a bad 6 weeks of play back when they brought Morrow up the first time. But Orlov, for the most part, the last month and a half, 2 months, including really all the playoffs, has been very good. But he wasn't tonight. And I think he was a justifiable -4. But I'd play Necas on Monday. I would play Kochetkov on Monday. I'd bring Tyson Jost into the lineup on Monday. And you hate maybe playing your last game without part of your future, but I think Tyson Jost will positively impact the game Monday more than Jackson Blake will. And you know me, I'm riding shotgun on the Jackson Blake bandwagon. So I would put some jam in a lineup. Tyson Jost brings it. Jackson Blake's going to be a great player. He's already incredibly talented and an offensive piece that Carolina needs. But I would leave him upstairs. That's just what I would do. But I don't have to be right. We'll see what the head coach does. But that's it. We're brought to you by the Aluminum Company of North Carolina. If it is for the exterior of your home, you can find it at the Aluminum Company of North Carolina on Hamlin Road in Durham. No place like it. Sammy Ann and his crew do a great job. You should check them out for all of your exterior home improvement needs. The Aluminum Company of North Carolina. I know we had a lot of you hanging out tonight, and I thank you very much for doing it. It's a late night, although it's early where you are, Mikhailov, in Adelaide Hills. It's early in Dublin, Ireland. It's early in Moldova. It's early in Japan. It's early everywhere. It's early here. It's a.m. where I am. We'll see everybody Monday night. Hopefully it will not be the last post-game podcast of the year. Hopefully they'll grab one game in this series and put the narrative to bed. But honestly, is one win going to put the narrative to bed? No. And it shouldn't. Until Monday, I'm Adam Gold. I thank you very much for spending the time. We'll see you next time.